Hey, what's up, man? Ward Wrestling here. Another awesome show, man. Absolutely blessed to have two of Florida's greats on here with us. We've got Dante Jiovenetta, we got Zach Sherman, both of Isle Style Wrestling. If you don't know, uh, Dante, two-time FHSA champion, three-time Greco All-American, Greco-Roman National Champion, Freestyle All-American, NHSCA All-American, wrestled at Missouri for MAC conference titles. Zach Sherman, unless you live under a rock, you know who he is. Two-time Division I All-American, UNC Prep National Champion, Blair Academy, Florida native, and I'm sure there's a lot of other stuff that he did. Dante just didn't remember when he was telling me. So, but man, these two guys are unbelievable, and they're building something special down there on the in the Florida Keys. So, welcome, man, guys. You just got back from Southeast Regionals. I'm going to be talking about it next with Jason from SE Wrestle on our weekly show. How was it up there?
It was good. There was honestly like a lot of really good competition. I remember competing there, and it seems like there's kids kind of a lot from the Midwest that are coming down and competing in Southeast Regionals. So, I think it's really good for guys that are trying to get looks for Fargo and just kind of, get good competition to prepare for it.
Yeah. Zach, do you get do kids come up when you're up in the Southeast and want like your autograph and a picture taken with you and all that good stuff?
No, I'm not too famous, you know, not there yet.
It's awesome. So you guys had a good turnout, had a bunch of kids up there wrestling. I know you have the one kid that's just an absolute stud coming up. Um, and looking forward
Had
to see.
we had a couple kids up there. We didn't have the full group. A lot of the kids might not have been ready for that, but a couple of them were. Gavin, he's the young stud that you're talking about coming up. Gavin Matthias, he wasn't able to wrestle this weekend, healing up a little, got a little banged up a couple weekends ago. So we're healing him up and making sure he's getting ready for Fargo and the last push for the end of summer training and stuff like that. So
That's awesome. Will he be? I know I was asking Dante about any kids at the qualifier. Is he going to be the one kid you think might go over to the qualifier? He's the one, or is he going to be at the camp with you guys?
He's kind of in a period right now where you know, we need him to rest his body. So
Nice.
we'll probably play a year, but first things first, we got to get him ready to compete again.
You guys down there, it's really cool to see stuff come for the Keys. Obviously, my dad lives down there, so I go down and see him, which is awesome. But um, you're also in a market for wrestlers where, I mean, up the road is just the greatest program in the history of our state, right? So you got a lot of kids that go up there, come down here, but you guys have seemed to start from the bottom with these youth, and you're really building them up. And I was talking to somebody today, and I told them I was having you guys on, and they were saying, um, we see them on the youth level, but we haven't seen them really blow up yet on the higher level. And what I said to them, because you and I speak a lot, Dante, and we ask, I said, so give them another year or two, you're really going to see these kids on the large scene. They're building, they're training, and I only know this because we've talked. But they're not going to allow these kids just to come up into these big, large tournaments just so you can see an Isle style singlet or you can see that they're doing. They really want these kids to be ready, well prepared when they get to these big tournaments. And I mean, talk on that. I know I've seen you building it, and we see you at the smaller tournaments. But yeah, it doesn't make sense in your mind to bring kids that aren't ready to these big tournaments.
Yeah, I mean, it's a process, this sport, and it's different for everybody. So you have to believe in the process, and you have to understand your wrestlers and kind of know where they're at. It's the wrestling fight with rules, man. If you're unprepared, you're putting yourself in danger. So it's been a long process. I started the club about getting close to 3 years ago. Or three and a half years ago. So it's, a lot of our guys are still newer wrestlers, but where I'm really excited for the future of Isle style wrestling is with our youth club. I feel like we have a lot of really young wrestlers with just crazy potential. I mean, when you start really young, that's great. You don't want to burn kids out or anything like that, but you know, you want to keep it light, keep it fun, teach them how to love the sport first, because once a wrestler loves the sport, they'll do what they need to do to become great at it.
I 100% agree with you. I know having a young kid that went through high school, found wrestling in high school, and once he loved it, you saw him put more work in. Where I have a ninth grader now that hasn't really found that love yet. So it's more like, all right, I'll go when you make me go, Dad. But other than that, I'm not gonna get motivated, right? But Zach, I know you being involved. I mean, you two obviously the wrestling knowledge and the success you've had is awesome. But I know I was texting Dante the other day, and because I didn't know, I was like, I know what he did in the folk style world. What about freestyle and that world? And he said, well, that's what he specializes in. And I wanted to ask you, getting these kids starting at a young age, are you trying to incorporate freestyle as well early so that they're kind of ready when they get up to that level to where they can compete on these world stages or these
Yeah,
big stages?
absolutely. Absolutely. And so the approach, I think, especially with the little ones, um, well, for example, when it comes to freestyle and Greco, me and Dante are both huge on that. And so immediately, we didn't have any state qualifiers this year. And so immediately when our regional tournament ended, the first thing we did was Greco training, only Greco for about 3 weeks straight. That's the first thing we did, just because we both understand the importance of being able to wrestle upper body, to be able to step your hips in, to be able to defend a gut wrench, and all of that stuff that you're going to learn in freestyle and Greco, they all transfer directly over to folk style. Like defending a gut wrench is like defending a tight waist, but a little bit harder. So once someone puts a tight waist on you in folk style, it's a little bit easier to defend. Um, and that's just one example. And then learning how to wrestle when you're in on a shot, like the defense is a little bit different. And not knowing how to not expose your back. Especially with the new danger rule in college where you expose your back, you get 3 count. Funk rolling's kind of, you don't see it as much on the college level anymore. You still see it a lot in high school. But a lot of times when you see guys like do funk roll defense, like they end up getting taken down. And there's some guys that are very good at it that it can work for, but some guys that are most of the time it's lower percentage. And so like teaching them to build, especially with the youth, building that athleticism to be able to land on your hands and your feet, to be able to hip heist through, to be able to drive up through a single leg without getting rolled through. All of those skills are things that are very, very, very important, especially when it comes to folk style that you don't realize until they start helping you in folk style. But it's really, really hard to realize the importance of that stuff until it starts helping. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and I know obviously you guys hear the big conversation in our state is growing the national team, right? And the only way to grow the national team is to be able to grow the Olympic styles, right? And and hopefully we'll see that. We see more kids going. We see Florida kids having success coming home with big stop signs, little stop signs, which is awesome. You guys obviously know what stop signs are, and and it's awesome to see. And when you say it's funny because it's no big secret. When I started this, I knew nothing about wrestling. I got into it because my son found a passion, and then I saw the importance it does for a human in life, right? And so I wanted to give back. But as I've learned wrestling, I always hear you guys as coaches or you guys as high level wrestlers saying, man, it's so much about the basics. It's so much about the basics, so much about the basics, right? But then I see kids doing like this crazy cool stuff, and I'm like, holy shit, that was awesome. Why don't you learn that? And then people, the coaches or the senior guys, like, that'll only work there, right? It's not going to work anywhere else, right? So I got a chance to go to the Olympic trials, and when I came back, the one thing that I said to people was, oh my gosh, it was the most basic wrestling I've ever seen at the absolute highest level. Like nobody was doing anything crazy. It was down block, it was move my legs, it was snap, it was underhook. I mean, it was nothing insane. You didn't see. I mean, other than the flying squirrel who has his patented move, right? You didn't really see many people doing anything crazy. And so I'm starting to understand why guys like you say, look, it's about positions and the basic moves. And yeah, occasionally can you try one of that crazy, it's like when Michael Jordan came out, everybody was trying to do the underhook hand thing like this, but just get the ball in the net, right? So,
Mhm.
so,
Exactly.
I mean, I'm sure you guys watch it. So I agree now seeing that, but I'm sure you guys watch it too. Well, you guys have been on the highest levels. How much does it go from like in high school where obviously your first 3 rounds at a high school tournament, you just blow through it, right? You don't really get any competition to the later rounds and you try some crazy stuff to when you guys got to college, it was more like slow it down, relax, take smart decisions. And is that what you're trying to tell these kids to prepare them for college as well?
Yeah, 100%. We're just if you don't have a good foundation, it doesn't matter what you know. So you could know as many wrestling moves, you could know every wrestling move that's ever been invented. But if you don't have a strong foundation, a strong base of basic wrestling, then whatever you know kind of goes out the window because as you wrestle high level opponents, when someone is constantly in good position and you don't know how to get them out of position, you're not going to score on that person. And it doesn't matter if all they have is a perfect double leg and a great stance. Jordan Burroughs, for example, his double leg, everyone knows about Jordan Burroughs' double leg, but that's the most basic form of wrestling. This guy's winning gold medals overseas with it in the past. So it's, that's what it's about. If you don't have a strong foundation, a strong basic understanding of wrestling, then whatever you know goes out the window.
Yeah, and it's coming, right? Like the double leg's coming. You just got to figure out how to.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, obviously we saw an older JB this year, and Knopf figured out how to get the double leg on him, right? but listen, Knopf's no bum, right? He's a pretty good wrestler himself, and it was fun to watch. But it's great. I wanted to ask Zach. I noticed that it's really unfortunate, obviously, what happened. And correct me if I'm wrong. I was reading where the Israeli national team can't compete. They're not allowing them to compete this year due to threats or due to fear. And I know that's something that's really, really dear to your heart. I know your late father was very into it, and I spoke with him about it a few years ago prior to the unfortunate circumstances. But are you still heavily involved with that? Are you still trying to be involved in that? And will we see you still maybe compete for them?
Yeah, great question. So, my college career, I guess to start off, I ended with I had a re-injury of a shoulder surgery, and then I tried to push through it because it was my last season, and that probably wasn't the best idea for, I guess, long-term shoulder health. But the goal was actually after my surgery was to compete for Israel and not necessarily wrestle my 6th year in college. That was supposed to be on the back burner, but when you're in the heat of the moment, it's kind of tough.
Yeah.
But yeah, my dad was pushing me really, really hard to get my Israeli citizenship, and it took about 2 years to get all the documents together, proof of Judaism and all sorts of stuff like this. And then, but I finished the application, and unfortunately, by the time I finished the application, my shoulder needed another surgery. So, um, this year I've kind of been taking a step back from competing, and just focusing on coaching and focusing on the kids. But I do plan to come back to competing again. And I think actually coaching has kind of opened my eyes a little bit. And I don't think I'm going to have the same mentality that I did before. I put a lot of pressure on myself in college to compete. And looking at it from a coach's standpoint, I'm putting pressure on myself for no reason, pretty much. Um, and I was tough mentally, so I was able to handle that pressure. But it was a lot that I put on myself, and I wanted to be an NCAA champ. And when you don't achieve something like that, it hurts. But um, the dream that me and my dad always had growing up is that I could be an Olympian and maybe bring home a medal one day. And that dream's not out the window. I'm actually going up to North Carolina next week, and they'll be repairing my shoulder again. Slightly different repair this time, and I don't know. We're gonna see how it goes, and but I know as rehab goes, it's something you got to take day by day. Even though there's like certain timelines, I will not be following timelines. I'll be following what my body feels, and I will not be rushing it. And hopefully, the goal is to come back and compete for Israel. Hopefully, summer of 2025. Maybe start with like an open tournament, like Bill Farrell Invitational or something like that to get myself warmed up before I jump into like a European Championships type thing.
That's awesome.
So
Yeah, I was wondering, I know obviously how involved your family was with the Israeli team and what Judaism means to them and what all that means to them. And I was wondering if you were going to whether you ever wrestled for them or not, if you were going to stay involved, maybe coach with them, maybe offer camps, and maybe being in South Florida where it's a huge Jewish community, how do we could you reach out and try and grow that community into the wrestling room and get more uh more of our Jewish community wrestling and competing at that level to try to prepare them to for an Israeli team or something to grow that, like my son is Puerto Rican, my wife is Puerto Rican, and we went and competed in Puerto Rico, and it was pretty cool. His parents, my in-laws, are like through the roof that he got to go compete in Puerto Rico. So I was wondering if that's the same feel to kind of grow that community as well for you.
yeah, absolutely. So when I went to Israel in summer of 2017. That was the summer I graduated from high school. And I was on Team USA at the Maccabi games, and I didn't want to go at first. I was like, oh, like be around a bunch of Jewish people. And
I get
so
it.
I end up going out to I make Team USA, right? I go out to Israel, and this is like a miniature Olympic Games with just Jewish people, and we're out there for 3 weeks. I spent time in Tel Aviv. Got to see Mount Masada, the Dead Sea. We went pretty much all over the country. And then we're competing freestyle and Greco, and it was the U.S. We had a solid team. We had a bunch of kids that were in college. Another Florida guy, actually, Mike Kosoya, was on the team. He was our heavyweight. Um, and we had some good guys. Nate Engel he was the weight class below me, Greco world team member in the past, and Oregon State assistant coach, or RTC head coach. I don't know exactly, but
He was, I think he was the assistant, and then it seems to me he's taken over the art. I mean, all I see him now is with the
RTC coach.
RTC. I know he was at Olympic trials with some of the girls. So.
Yeah, and so he was my training partner over there when I was in Israel. And we had a blast, and it was like when we competed too, it was like the finals was like almost a dual meet, like Team USA versus Team Israel, and it was the Israel national team. And I beat their number one guy when I think I was 18 years old at the time. And at that point, they it wasn't from my side that I started trying to get the citizenship. It was the Israel Wrestling Federation. I guess after they watched me wrestle, they wanted me to wrestle for them.
It's awesome. I mean, yeah, and it's cool because as I've been able to see the sport, you're seeing a lot of guys like yourself, high level college athletes, decide to go and compete for their heritage. Like we saw the Michigan kid he put the lineup for his weight class at the Olympic trials, and he was like, "Good luck, guys," because he went to Mexico and qualified there, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't have to go through that hell of a weight class right now of murderers row."
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome, but that's cool. I know Dante, you were saying, I think we still have some time. You were saying that you guys grew up and you guys were there was a dual team you guys competed on when you were kids coming up that had like the likes of Joey Silva and guys like that on there. Man, talk about that team, bunch of killers, huh?
Oh, I mean, when we started, we sucked. We were right, Zach. I mean, our first tournament, we went to Tennessee. We were so young. I don't really remember all the details. Our first heatwave team in Tennessee. We had a big like elementary school national duels tournament up there. I remember getting beat up pretty bad. I think I won a couple matches, but over the years, there was kind of like a group of our age wrestlers that competed, traveled, and we learned together, we competed together, but we got good. over the years, and we got better and better and better. And there was a lot of guys on that team that, you know, are still competing now or are coaching and, you know, ended up doing great things with the sport. So,
And a lot of them ended up D1 wrestlers or at least college wrestlers somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know we were talking about Joey earlier. I just saw Joey down in Puerto Rico. He's definitely made a great transition for himself, and he seems happy down there, and he's doing well. And it was really nice to see him because, you know, we know some of the obstacles that he went through, and to see him back on his feet and doing really well, it's awesome, right? But man, what you guys are building down there in the Keys, man, I know your goal is to compete, Zach, but I hope you don't leave that. Like, come back and stay there and grow those kids and help Dante do that, because I think having a program down there is huge for the Florida Keys, especially, you know, I say the Florida Keys, what do I tell people? I go, it's the biggest little town in the country. Like it's a long way from Key West to Tavernier and Key Largo, but it's such a small town. And with what they're doing down at Key West High School, and he's been doing a great job down there with the program, and now to have somebody like yourselves building a program up in the Upper Keys. I mean, pretty soon you guys can have like one of those Keys versus the world thing, right? You guys can put together all that stuff. Like, I have a shirt that says Island versus the World from Merritt Island. You know, they gave me it when I went to do the thing. I got to get myself. I went onto your store today to buy an Isle style shirt, but there's nothing on the store yet. We got to get shirts on there.
Yeah, we do.
That's a nice website. I like what you're doing there. It's pretty awesome. But I love the look. So, all right, down in the Keys, I go there. You know, my dad's there, and one of our favorite places is the steakhouse down there, Ziggy's. He always takes us to Ziggy's, man. So, when you guys go to Ziggy's, what's your choices? What's on the menu that you guys are grabbing? I want to know, because I want to make sure I try something else when I get down there.
I get the cowboy cut bone-in ribeye with
Ooh.
a side of sauteed mushrooms and onions.
Sauteed mushrooms. Zach, what are you getting down there?
So I actually I haven't been to Ziggy's in a long time. But I will give you a suggestion. And I eat there pretty much every day after practice. It's right across the street from the high school. Captain Craig's famous fish sandwich, can't go wrong.
Oh, isn't that where I think I told you that's where I went for breakfast or the lunch that one time with I think my dad does a lunch meeting there like every Friday or something
Oh, really?
with a bunch of his buddies, and he took me in there. All right, I got to get the fish sandwich there. Well, and up the street from you in that little coffee shop on the right there, up on the steps, they make those little roll. It's like the long thin Italian roll, and they put all the like prosciutto on there and stuff. That's not bad.
Yeah.
So, what's the go-to seafood? You guys do the stone crabs? You guys do the coconut shrimp? You guys do is it the Florida grouper, the mahi mahi? What's your go-to?
I think the tastiest thing that comes out of the ocean is a stone crab claw, but they can be pretty expensive. I mean, but that's my favorite thing to eat that comes out of the water, stone crab.
Oh man, stone crabs.
I
What
like
about you?
Tuna.
Tuna's the best. We go down. Sometimes I go down to, there's a market up there in Key Largo before you go up. And I always go back in there to that market. They've got like a restaurant up front where you get something to eat, and then you go in and you get the fresh tuna. But I have to agree with you, man. Stone crabs. My dad, when he first moved down there, he was working at the fisheries down there when he first moved to the Keys, and kind of doing a security gig, you know, because he was a retired police officer, and he knew the people that owned it. So they had him walking around there, and man, he would see some great stone crabs come out. But they have, and if you go to the fisheries, and you guys would know better than me, but they have like that famous lobster Reuben that comes out of the
Oh.
and and you have to give them like a name. You got to give them like some superhero name, whatever the theme is of the day, right? And you got to and they scream it so you know you're coming in. But man, the food down there is so awesome. But it's so fresh too. Like, you can tell the difference when you're getting a piece of seafood down there or something down there. We love going up to the fish house too, up there by the school, like up in Key Largo. and getting that. What do they call it? They have that sauce. It's like it comes with the lump crab meat and stuff. It's like
Oh
something.
yeah, I forget what
Oh
it's
man.
called, but I
And I know you still look like you're in great shape, Zach, but I know wrestlers now, and you guys are the biggest foodies in the world.
Oh
And
yeah.
as I'm around these kids more, including my own, you'll see them during weight cuts. They're looking at like Open Door and looking at different foods that they're gonna buy. They're like, oh yeah, okay. When I get done with this weight cut, it's a Chipotle bowl, steak, onions, beans, and, or at the end of the season every year, my son would say, "Can we go to the Brazilian steakhouse and can we just eat a lot?" No, like, no problem. Um, I'm I'm fatter than I've ever been. I was getting yelled at last night by my wife. She's like, "You're fat," and I'm like, "Man, I know." I woke up this morning. I'm like, I'm just gonna drink a cup of coffee because I'm fat, and then eat this. But then we go to like Puerto Rico, and I'm like, how can I not be fat in Puerto Rico? I mean, they got the best. Everything's fried. Everything's yummy. I'm like, shit. How can I not do that? And then I gain the weight back. I'm terrible. I'm terrible at this dieting thing. I love it. Zach, we hear that you're going to be part of the band now, so I wanted to put your picture up there with the ukulele. We hear that the Friday night band that he and his brother are doing, we're going to start to see you jamming in
Yeah, just start with some finger picking on the ukulele while Dante
it.
over there. No,
That's
they
so
do an
cool.
awesome job. If you guys ever, if anybody ever makes it down to the Keys on what is it, a Wednesday night, usually Dante, or Thursday nights?
mostly yeah.
Wednesday nights at the Blue Marlin, Dante and Vinny and their guy Coconut Cowboy, they perform and
They're jamming.
there's drinks and there's food trucks and the food trucks they have seafood there and it's fresh seafood. Like they'll have the Captain Craig's food truck and
Uh,
Isla Morada Brewing Company and all that stuff. So
I
pretty
was going to say that Isla Morada Brewing Company is really is awesome. I have shirts from there. They got that for some reason. I don't know where they get their shirt material, but they put out a great shirt. I love it. Every time I go down, I grab one. Um, and the beer doesn't suck. Remember when they were down the street there in that little hole in the wall down the street, and they had a big parrot in the back that would scream at you when you came in, and then now they
Yeah,
moved up to that big area by the painter.
they have that location.
They still have it.
Yeah, in
Um,
the down end of the art district there, it's still there, and people go in there, but it gets so packed they made the other location.
oh, I didn't know that it was still open. I figured they just moved,
Oh
or
yeah,
maybe they kept it open to brew the beer back there. But it's awesome. Well, Zach, I know I think I've met you once briefly at a tournament, but it's obviously I hear your name all the time, and it's awesome to finally get to have you on and meet you like this. And hopefully one day I'll get to meet you in person. But it's always been a pleasure, obviously. So thanks so much for doing
yeah,
this.
I
And man,
appreciate
I love what you guys are doing down there. And the Keys are awesome, and I don't think you guys. Dante's going to die down there. He's never leaving the Keys, so
yep.
we'll see him down there for years and years. Does he ever wear shoes?
it. Dante, he wears flip-flops a lot. Yeah, he's always in the flip-flops.
Okay, before I
Actually,
hang up, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say at Southeast Regional, someone was they were telling me like I was wearing shoes and they were just like completely thrown off.
Yeah.
Like
They say, you're the flip-flops guy.
Never. Yeah, I remember when my dad first moved down there. Um, I had never really frequented the Keys. It was always a dream of my dad's when he retired to be down there. And I didn't really know much about it other than I went down there with a camp. We went to the Penny Camp once in sixth grade. They took us all to the Penny Camp. I think that's like a ritual for elementary kids in Florida, right? Like you go to John Penny. And but I go down there and we're getting ready to go to dinner, and I'm like, I dress up all, I put all my nice stuff on, my nice shoes. He's like, "What are you doing?" So you just told me we're going to this really fancy steakhouse. Like, what the hell? What do you mean? I got to dress. He's like, dude, we wear flip flops and boat shorts down here. Like, nobody cares how fancy the place is. You still walk in with And I'm like, really? He was like, yeah. Now, obviously, fast forward this many years later, now they have a table in the corner for him when you show up, right?
Yeah.
No, no, but this has been fun, man. I'd love to do it anytime. It's been good, and look forward to seeing you guys keep growing that. And hopefully, I can get my son down there to do some freestyle training with you, Zach. I know he's going to Lima, Peru, the first the first week of July or something, or the second. I think it's the 11th to the 13th. So we were talking with Dante. I'm just happy he gets to experience it, right? As one of life's experiences. So it'd be cool. But trying to get to Lima, Peru is a hell of a thing, especially from here. Like we got to drive to Miami and do all that. But hopefully we'll have a good time. But yeah, I'll try and get him down to the Keys. I'm going to see if he'll come down with me when I come down for Pat Lugo's camp on not his camp, his tournament on the 9th. Maybe I can talk Daniel into coming down with me for a couple of days.
Nice. So
Yeah.
I won't be down there. Dante will be down there for him to still work with. I'll be back from North Carolina. They want me to stay up there for a few weeks. So I'll be there for probably a month or a little bit more in Chapel Hill, and then probably come back home around time to get the guys ready for Fargo.
Oh, nice.
Right
Oh, cool.
before.
Well,
Yeah.
hopefully I'll see you then. We'll probably be down in August. I was talking to my wife. We have a couple of passes that they sent us from that hotel up in Key Largo.
Actually, I have a question. So what's the rule? Your son's wrestling for Puerto Rico. He's still allowed to compete in Fargo, right? Or no?
No, so he could, but he just ended his freshman year in college.
Oh, okay,
So
okay.
he won't be going, he
Oh,
won't be doing the Fargo thing. But I think I was gonna tell he's seen let's do this. I'm gonna press stop on the recording, but we'll do this first. Hey, thanks guys so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. This has been a great time. Thanks for coming on.